Hey, you guys. So today I'm going to walk you guys through the much dreaded and avoided revision process of essay writing. We're going to be looking at one of my students' first drafts of his personal statement, and then we're going to look at the comments and suggestions that I gave him to improve, and then we're going to look at his final draft. So hopefully this will give you guys an idea of how to walk through your own revision process, because writing is rewriting, and without revising your essay, it won't go well for you. I'll just say that, because these essays need to be perfect. Isn't that right, George? Okay, so what we have here on this side of the screen is Christian's first draft. And what I have on this side of the screen is the post that I put up going over like a template for how to write your personal statement. What we're covering today, as I've said, is revising. What I typically like to do is I like to do sort of what Christian has done here, is what I call free write. I don't worry about where it's going to go. I don't worry about if it's being organized well or not. I just write. And then I go back in the next day and start organizing and cutting information, especially since it's only 650 words, which that creeps up on you pretty quickly. So this is why in the personal statement, editing is so critical, because you only have 650 words, and those can get eaten up with like superfluous sentences that like don't really add anything to your argument, or just like poorly written sentences. So I'm going to read Christian's first draft, and as I'm reading it, I want you guys to think about, what do you think about Christian? Would you let him into college? What is this essay doing for him, right? Like, what is this essay saying about who he is as a person? Because while the personal statement is a creative writing prompt, you also always have to remember your audience, which in this case are people deciding whether or not to let you in, or people deciding whether or not to give you a scholarship. So let's take them seriously, right? So without further ado, here is Christian's first draft. Ever since I was a little kid, I have always had a sense of wanting anything and everything imaginative and realistic. It all started with Legos. It was a cold night in mid-2010, and my parents took me to Toys R Us, and I saw so many Legos that I wanted. There were so many, but the one that caught my eye was a Lego Power Miner set called the Thunder Driller. I also wanted another set that was called the Crystal Sweeper, but my parents said we'll get it next time. From then on, that urge to want everything resonated with me in school as well. Okay. I signed up for a lot of clubs, to the point where every single day after school, I would have a club to attend that included magic, clay, and percussion. That feeling also felt the same way at school when I was growing up and needed to find newer clubs. As I ascended into middle school, I still continued to sign up for a lot of clubs. My parents also signed me up for clubs that I didn't even want to go to. Although I could not enjoy some of the clubs that I was forced to join, I was still grateful to be heavily involved in extracurricular activities. What I learned from those experiences is that my greed needed to be stopped to some extent. After I graduated from middle school and moved on to high school, I had to find new opportunities to satisfy my greed. In mid-2016, I got obsessed with professional wrestling, especially WWE. I started watching wrestling religiously, to the point where I was talking about it too much at school. At this time, I found out that I could buy action figures that were based on the wrestlers that I saw on TV. Of course, with that greedy mindset, I brought mostly all of my favorite wrestlers, to the point where I had over 100 of them. Collecting figures and school have closely affected my life, in which I like collecting figures and also want to collect opportunities in school. Okay. In my high school, I signed up for a music club and student council. Unfortunately, they didn't offer many clubs that I liked, so I decided to venture outside of my high school and look into what programs some colleges are offering. Throughout my high school years, I have successfully completed 3 to 4 pre-college programs at several universities. As I grew older, I attempted to look for more clubs which will signify as a collection that would get me to my next stop, college. Getting accepted into college is an opportunity of a lifetime, just like collecting every single figure. By getting accepted into college that I have wanted to go to feels just the same as completing a collection. As by getting accepted into this college, I would have gained another collection completion. Okay. Okay, so what did you guys think? Um, I really like this essay because I see it as like a diamond in the rough. It needs quite a bit of polishing, but I think the core idea is there. I really like how he talks about Lego sets because who doesn't love Lego sets? I mean, that the set he bought does sound very cool. And two, I like how he uses that to make a connection to his extracurricular activities. However, I think that connection between collecting Lego sets and activities and clubs, that connection needs a little bit of strengthening. Like it felt like a leap to go from it. Let's look at that sentence again. From then on, here's the transition sentence. From then on, that urge to want everything resonated with me in school as well. I signed up for a lot of clubs to the point where every single day after school, I would have a club to attend that included magic, clay, and percussion. So I get it, but he goes straight from talking about something as cool as the crystal sweeper that his parents are going to get him next time. And did his parents get it for him? I don't know. I want to know, right? To like collecting everything in school. And I get why he uses the word like greedy and wanted to have everything, but I kind of think that gives like a little bit of a negative connotation because remember, your audience for this essay is going to decide if they want to let you in or not. And greedy is typically like a negative comment, a negative sort of attribute. So I'm going to sort of suggest that he edits that out. The other thing, and perhaps the most important thing, is that this is all one long paragraph, which is totally fine for a rough draft because that's what rough drafts are. They're a hot mess. But if you are writing one long paragraph, did you not find yourself nodding off a little bit while I was reading it? Like, especially when he was listing all of his clubs and activities, like, get to the, so that's something that in the revising process, you can really catch and start to like edit out. So what I don't like about the essay is that he kind of uses it as an excuse to list all of his activities, and like that's what the activities section of the application is for. The same goes for cover letters and resumes once you're out into the real world, by the way. You never want to just list all of your activities back in your cover letter because they're stated in the resume. So for the personal statement, you want to focus on something unique and specific, and you want to avoid list making as much as possible because frankly, it's kind of boring, right? So again, you want to think about your audience and you want to make them entertained. You want them to have a good time while reading it because one, that shows off that you're a good writer, and two, like they're going to be in a good mood when they finish reading because they're like, oh damn, that was a good point. So it's all about knowing your audience and writing to them. And that's true for, frankly, all writing. But so obviously we want him to start going over in the revision process, separating out this long block of text into the paragraph, the suggested template that I lay out, where it's basically like a 5-paragraph essay, but it's geared towards the personal statement. The reason why one long paragraph is poor form is one, all the thoughts jumble together and you kind of lose track of where you are. And two, like it's hard to read. Like, do you want to read, like, see how each of these like posts are all separated out on my post about the layout? And then now look over at Christian's personal statement. Like, so much text. That's what I think every time I get a student who has written one long paragraph. One, it makes me really grumpy and in a bad mood because it's hard to read. And two, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. So you never, ever want your reader to feel that way, especially when they're grading you or deciding to let you into college or not. But with that said, now that I've trashed Christian just a little bit, but every single one of you guys do this the first draft. I still do this the first draft. I would show you some of my first drafts, but they're even uglier than Christian's. And the thing that I really love is that Christian has a nugget of a really good idea, which is really the most important thing of walking out of a personal statement. So in the next video, I'm going to go line by line through suggestions that I have for Christian for his comments. And then in the third video, I'm going to read his final draft, and we're going to talk about how much he has grown over the series of, I don't know, 2 weeks of working on it intermittently. And that's the other thing. It just takes time and persistence, right? It's like endurance training. All right. Bye, you guys.